This is the new Mercedes-Benz E-Class, and it is a proper clever, aren't you?
With this level of engineering, it's a performance machine. With this degree of intelligence, it's a supercomputer. With this grade of protection, it's a fortress. With this standard of luxury, it's an oasis. And because of this perfume dispenser, you can even...
Oh, bloody hell, what was in that pasty? That's the thing about this E-Class. It's the cleverest car that Mercedes has ever made, but that would be completely pointless if it was also no good at just being sat on a motorway at 70 miles per hour for hours at a time. So let's do that for a bit. Maybe give it 5 minutes. Now, the main thing to know about this car is that it is absolutely brilliant on the motorway for many reasons. And the first one is that it's just so refined. You would never believe that there's a 4-cylinder diesel under there. This one. Now, this is an E220D, which is the one that most people will buy. But the days of base model saloons being all depressing and really noisy and clattery, them days is over like. This is phenomenal. I have no idea how they've made it so quiet. Or economical, because in this, a massive luxury saloon, don't forget, it manages to return a 72.4 miles per gallon average with 112 grams per kilometre of CO2. And yet, do the 0 to 62 miles per hour sprint that everybody's so bothered about in just 7.3 seconds. Now that's pretty much hot hatch quick. It's quicker than a Golf GTD. Imagine if somebody told you 10 years ago that that was all possible. They'd tell you to...
And it gets better. On the one hand, Mercedes clearly hasn't messed about trying to make this a spurting saloon, but is instead focused on making it comfy. Yet somehow it is actually still good to drive. Dynamic select is standard, which means you can change the steering, throttle and gear shift to alter the characteristics of the driving experience. Whatever the mode though, it's a really nicely balanced car.
Right, this is all starting to sound like a big fat advert for the E-Class. So let's talk about some of the things that aren't so good about this car. Like, the command system. They've spelled command with one M. I do actually have a problem with command though, but it's more a personal preference thing. I just don't like these rotary dial setups. I think they make the simplest thing, like putting a postcode in, more complicated than it needs to be.
And that's even more frustrating if you specify this massive, glorious pair of widescreens, which are begging to be touch sensitive, but aren't. And even though this interior is utterly beautiful, you do have to be careful with your options. I mean, look at this bizarre 80s pinstripe. I've never seen trim based on a yuppie banker with his legs open. And then on the outside, there's the fact that it's difficult to tell the difference between this and the smaller, cheaper C-Class. Should that sort of thing bother you, you big snob? Speaking of which, if you are the type who likes to have stuff done for you, this is the car for you.
Is the world truly ready for a vehicle that can drive itself? Ready or not, the future is here. Introducing the 2017 E-Class from Mercedes-Benz. A concept car that's already a reality.
Now I've come at the back seat here because I've heard that this E-Class will accelerate, brake and steer itself in lanes. So I've got the manual. Let's learn more about this system. Caution, driver must remain alert with hands on wheel at all times or system will disengage. Crap! Phew. But there are some things this car can do without you being in the driving seat, like parking using an app. Weird.
Mercedes won't actually say that the E-Class drives itself, but you do get the impression that it could if it wanted to. The question is, do you want it to?
A Drive Pilot is a 1,700 quid option that's supposed to take the stress out of driving on a motorway. Now it does that by steering the car itself in lane, and it can brake if it needs to, and it can speed up if it needs to. It's sort of like Jedi cruise control. The car's even capable of switching lanes by itself when you flick the indicator on, but Mercedes had to turn it off in the UK because it's still a bit of a legal grey area. The thing is, it's actually terrifying to do, and it's probably less stressful just driving the car yourself. And also there's the question of how easy it would be to drift off, if you're not really thinking about what you're doing when you're going at 70 down the motorway. Still though, you can't really see this technology in action and not think, yeah, actually driving a car is pretty much going to be a retro hobby quite soon. But don't worry, there'll still be plenty of excitement before that happens, like the fact that there's bound to be an AMG version of the E-Class with a gazillion horsepower, like this last gen one that we found lying around. But there's a problem, and the problem is that it's possible to spec up a plain old E220D to the same sort of money you'd pay for an AMG car. See, the E220D SE costs that much, which isn't bad at all given all the lovely things we've said about it, the cabin quality and the refinement and all that sort of stuff. And it's really well equipped, as we're demonstrating below. However, move up to an AMG line car with its sporty looks and all that, and the price goes here. Then take a pen to the options list and, well, the sky's the... well, it's not literally the limit. Anyway, this car here, with its drive pilot and its twin screens and its fart fragrance dispenser, comes to £54,475. But man, it still feels worth it. What? What? Oh no, not again!